Hello, I'm Chris Flisher, and welcome to Turning of the Wheel, an intelligent, lively discussion about astrology, art, and spiritual adventure. Timing is everything, and as the great wheel turns, we are best prepared when we are best informed. Join me as I explore concepts that allow us to broaden our view of the world. You'll hear interesting topics, meet fascinating guests, and discover who you really are. Using the time-tested practices of astrology, you'll learn how to accept change as the great wheel of life turns. Astrology, art, and spiritual adventure on Turning of the Wheel TV with Chris Flisher. Hello and welcome to Turning of the Wheel. As you know, this is a show about astrology, art, and spiritual adventure. And that title gives me a wide umbrella under which I can place a lot of different topics. I've got a great guest today, and we're going to be talking about auric imaging. And my guest today is Nicole Majik. She's here today to visit and talk to me today about auric imaging. And what it is an auric camera that takes a picture of the individual and then is able to determine the energy fields. But she's going to tell us more about that. So welcome to the show today, Nicole. Great to see you as always.
Nice to see you, Chris.
And your aura is certainly on fire today, so you look good. And
thank you.
so tell us about how can a camera capture a person's aura? That's really intriguing to me.
Yes, well, it's a biofeedback system. So when it uses your hands.
Ah,
okay. So
okay. You're getting heat from here.
You've got heat. You have all of your mini chakras, all your energy centers. They end in your hands and your feet.
Oh, this is like a conduit for the whole. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. So when you place your hands on these hand plates, it's going to go through different iterations of biofeedback processing.
Huh.
So it's really mapping out the energetics throughout your entire body.
And is that based on temperature or vibration, or what is it based on?
Pretty much a difference in all of the pieces, the elements of your energy. So it could be the vibrational state, it could be how easy the electricity passes through you, also with the temperature that also can affect.
Do you have to put anything, any sort of conductive agent on your fingers beforehand, or is it just straight on?
Nope, just straight on.
And they go on these pads?
They go on these pads that have silver pieces to them. And there is a mild electric current that runs through that you don't even feel.
Interesting.
Yes, so it processes a bunch of different information based off of Kirlian photography, but it's not the same.
Now, what's Kirlian photography? What's that?
Kirlian photography is when a lot of people remember the leaf image.
Oh,
Dr.
right,
Kirlian had developed
I remember that, yeah.
And it actually has to be exposed to the film, and the broken leaf will show the entire leaf. So it shows the entire leaf aura.
Okay.
So based off of that, a man named Guy Coggins had developed this so that we could capture your energetic imprint on film, like we see here.
Okay.
Right.
Now this is quite an elaborate system, because we had talked initially about trying to bring it into the studio and doing it here, but it's just a little bit too cumbersome to do that. I have done this before with Nicole, and I think I came out with a pretty good color from what I recall. And I'm interested in what the colors signify. I mean, they certainly have, so you're going to go, a person's going to come to you at your place, Nicole Majik, or wherever you're out traveling, you're out at a trade show or whatever, or a fair, and they're going to be able to put their hands in there, and you'll be able to tell them what their current energy field is, and that will give you, what kind of information does that allow you to present to them?
Right. So I'm going to back up a little bit here because I've seen auras all my life, and the reason why I got into it is to show people what it is that I do see. When I found this camera and found that it's actually pretty accurate, it allowed me to show people using the photo what it is that I see, be able to point it out to them, and then have a conversation with them so that they had something to walk away with that was tangible. Right?
So you're able to interpret what the camera says and what it does?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Based on your own personal knowledge of the color systems and the auras?
Yes.
Ah, interesting.
So growing up this way all my life, I was able to start seeing different patterns with different types of personalities, people, things that are going on in their head. So I see a little bit more than what comes out on the photo, because I see thought forms. I actually used to be really good at interviewing people at my previous job because I could see where they were taking information from. So the thought forms would come in and I'd see where things would stream through, and be able to know if somebody was having a hard time getting the information that somebody was asking for, or if they were lying, or if they were utilizing somebody else's information, or when they were just trying to remember something. So there's a lot of different pieces to seeing an aura, and it's really very complex.
So this could be used as a lie detector, or
ask my kids.
So I'm sure you put them to the test.
Oh yes.
What time did you get in last night? You're lying. Yeah.
Well, their aura immediately changes, so the energy around them immediately changes, and it does different things for different people. But they would get so frustrated because they would lie, and then I would wait and say, "Oh, do you want to try again?"
What a great tool for a parent. Gosh, I wish I had that when I was raising my kids.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. But the kinds of energy, the kinds of colors that you see indicate the personality or the state of the person who you're filming,
right,
or you're testing.
Right. So all these different colors, depending on where they are located around the body or around, if you're looking at the picture, there's this one side. I can actually show you.
Okay, sure.
If that's
So camera.
Looking at this, you can hold that, and this section right here shows the energy of a person, what they emit out into the world, how people perceive them, and their basic interactions with others. So whatever that energy is going on between them and other people.
Interesting.
The above the head over here shows what's going on with them right now on a more personal level. And then this section over on this side shows the energy of what's coming up in the near future. Sometimes we see different chakra points lit up, and other times we see angels, spirit guides, or past loved ones that show up in the energy field.
How much information does this type of a reading provide about a person? I mean, it tells you about their current state, but does it tell you about sort of the type of person they are? Are they an angry person? Are they a compassionate person? Are they a funny person? Does it give you personality traits or that, or you have to sort of extrapolate that?
It's going to show you like a couple different things. So one, I have to explain a little bit about the aura and how energies and emotions affect it. So the first thing is that everybody has a base auric pattern, and that means that that is your natural state of being when you're calm and in your element. So whatever that might be. So you could be, you know, a crazy sport person, you know, extreme sports, or you can be that person that just likes peace and quiet, silence, and nothing more. And whatever your natural element is, you're going to have an auric imprint based on that. It's just like a fingerprint.
Interesting. So that's kind of like an astrology chart as well. I mean, it's sort of what you're cast with at the time. But this is sort of a permanent tone for a person?
It can change over time. So as you develop and grow, your aura can change.
Okay.
So your aura may be different as a young child versus an adult.
And it will also change, I imagine, based on your emotional state at the time.
Right.
If you're going to see the doctor or going to visit the IRS or something like that, your things are going to be a little bit different than if you're going out to the beach for the day.
Right.
Okay.
So that base auric pattern is your natural state. But then it will also respond to emotional stimuli, so that will be a temporary state.
Okay.
So if, say, you know, when we see each other, it's, hey, how are you doing? You know, big hug. And when that happens, you know, we have a good relationship where that expands the aura. It's a positive influence on the aura. Enter somebody in that is the bane of your existence, and that's going to do something completely different. You might pull in, you might feel anger or resentment or whatever that is, sadness, and that's going to change your aura as well.
But those are temporary sort of flash imprints. They don't really give necessarily a profile of a person over time.
Right.
So you'd have to develop multiple images, I would think, in order to get a good composite of a person, or can you get that at one time?
It depends what's going on with that person at once. So the energies right now are crazy, astrologically.
Right.
So that might have an influence on somebody's life right now, right? But if you're taking a look at, if you do get one done periodically, you can actually see energies come through your system and back out. So depending on how you catch it, you'll see if something's happening in your life. For example, whenever I'm creating and quietly creating, working on something behind the scenes. My aura, which is typically mostly purple, sometimes a little bit of light blue around my head, it will turn bright orange.
Interesting.
And most of the time you can't see me. It'll cover up all this area.
Because you're sort of in a zone of creativity.
Right, and I'm not telling anybody.
And that's sort of, so that implies secrecy, or is that just implies, you know, not being extroverted?
It's implying that you're keeping things to yourself, not necessarily secrecy, because a lot of people take that as a negative.
Right. Just not broadcasting it.
Exactly. So as you're creating and just keeping it together, and it's behind the scenes. People that are very introverted, usually that happens with them.
That's their color typically.
Not their color, but that phenomena happens where they're blocked. Their face doesn't come out clearly. People that are extroverted, they show up very clearly through the picture. Interesting,
because they're more effusive, they're more in your face, so to speak, yeah.
When
you go through the colors each have a meaning, right? Are they directly connected to the chakras, or is there a distinct color coding, like, you know, a translator that says, well, if you're red, this is going to be it? I mean, obviously I would think red would be angry, but I don't know.
Red can be angry, so there's a few elements in there that I do want to address, and thank you for asking that question, because the colors, a lot of people associate red with root, green with the heart, you know, purple with the third eye. And although those are the colors and frequencies that are assigned to those chakras, what you tend to see is sometimes that heart chakra in the aura will be shining something else. And that doesn't necessarily mean that your chakra is off or anything like that. It just, sometimes it'll show that your passion. So if it might be shining red, right? And that
shows enthusiasm?
Yeah, it'll show that your passion is within your heart and you're following that right now, and that is coming out, and it's more of a, you've united your passion with your heart and are taking action on it.
Okay.
So that's usually how
So kind of like doing what you love, doing what inspires you.
Right. And sometimes it's just an ignition of that, where somebody has finally discovered, this is my passion, and I want to follow it, and they start taking those steps, so now it starts glowing in the heart.
I would think it would. If you really stumble upon what you're supposed to do in your life, as you have, and I have too, you certainly should see that be a manifestation, because it's just, you're sort of within, you're operating within the realm of your own elements. You know, you know that this is where you're supposed to be. And it's exciting because you're like, I'm firing on all pistons here. It really works.
Yes.
But certain people with certain skill sets would have different colors, I'd imagine, right? Like, in other words, a doctor might have a different color than a car mechanic, perhaps, or maybe that's too extreme.
And that kind of depends on the person, because when now you're looking at a lot of complex pieces, because going back to what you were saying earlier, and you know how things correlate. The colors, it's not just red means this, green means that. The colors where they're positioned might mean something. Different hues mean different things. Color combinations mean different things. So it really does get really complex. So some people come to me and they'll get their photos done somewhere else because they're out somewhere and they see it, and then they're disappointed, because then they'll come back to me and say, can you read this? Because I get this printout. And it makes me laugh a little bit, because it's so complex, a printout's not gonna
do it.
You'll get the same printout that I will if the same color shows up in the same spot, and it can be so different. And
so that's where the interpretation becomes the key.
Yes.
And that's what you specialize in.
Right, because when I'm reading for you, I'm not looking at this picture and telling you what's going on there. I'm actually in your aura, reading that aura, the energy that's there, and just using this picture to show you what I see. So there may be some other elements in there that come out, and that we can tackle.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated as an artist with color, obviously, excuse me, and I love the idea, because to me, color represents a vibration of a frequency of sorts. So the darker colors, like the blues and the purples, tend to be a slower or maybe I may be totally wrong about this, a slower frequency than, say, something of a faster one like a red or an orange. Is that correct?
Right.
Or the cooler covers tend to be slower moving versus the hot colors, which are faster?
Right. So if you go along those lines, you're looking at red, action, or anger.
Right.
Anger is a very
Some sort of
serious,
expressive,
tense
yeah.
Emotion. But if you're looking at the reds, it's very passion, action.
Interesting. Yeah,
There's
that's great.
also a sexual element to the red
Passion,
and the
right.
red orange. So there's that energy that's there. So depending on what's really going on, the hue of that will come out.
Okay.
When you're looking at blues, blues can tend to be more of emotional people or people that are tapped into the emotional element of things. So empaths will show very blue. But
And
then
anybody who's intuitive would have that strong sense, I'd imagine, right?
you can still be intuitive and be red. So there's, because you can be intuitive and stay grounded versus being intuitive and being flighty.
Okay.
Somebody
makes
that
sense,
can
yeah, I get that.
access meditative states very easily can be purple. But then if you look at extremes of the purple and sometimes more of that flightiness, you'll see people go into a different shade of that purple.
Okay. And, are these, so they can also, aside from being a snapshot of where a person is at the time, they can give an overall sort of color profile or aura profile of a person as their general makeup, correct?
Yes.
Their general sort of composure. And do you find that different personality types have different colors? For sure, that's almost positive the case, right? That you have different personality types have different colors. And you can tell by reading someone's aura what kind of a person they are.
Right.
That's kind of scary.
It is.
Well, not scary. I mean,
it
it can be,
yeah.
it can be kind of encouraging too.
It's kind of funny because I kept this to myself for a long, long time because I'll tell the story of how I realized that I was different. I was probably about 7 years old, and we were in church, and I'm looking at the priest, and I was mind-boggled because even though everybody else's auras, I could watch this light show and, colors changing, people having conversation and seeing all this different stuff. This one particular priest, every single Sunday, was always purple.
Interesting.
Always, always, always. So then what ended up happening is this one day he was green. And I was watching it saying, well, is he going to turn to purple? And I ended up asking my mom, I said, how come Father John is all green today and he's always purple? And my mom looked at me and said, do you see color around people? And then she was asking me, do you see colors around this person, that person? I'm like, I see them around everybody. Don't you see that? And she explained to me, no, I really don't. And then I realized, wow, that's different. And as I grew up, it intrigued me even more to understand, well, why do I see it? Or what do I do with it? And how do I understand it more? Turned out that the father got moved, so he had the green of transformation and change.
Oh, he knew he was
him.
moving on, yeah.
Right, so he was
Interesting.
always a very good priest, very tapped in, very calm and quiet.
And you'd expect someone of that nature to be purple anyway, because you want
Yes.
them to be empathetic and intuitive and all that stuff, and to be, forthcoming with you and empathy, and empathetic especially.
Yes.
But when you see someone, it's like a fog around them. I mean, do you see a fog around me now?
There are different fogs around people that I do see,
Okay.
and it's kind of funny. So there's the fog that people have when, they had a good night of partying,
Right.
a lot of
that fog,
drinks,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's that fog, and you can actually see it like, to me it looks like the mirage.
Oh,
On a
okay.
hot day when you're looking at the street and you see the mirage just
Yep.
kind of doing this thing. And then there's the pig pen. So remember the Peanuts character,
I do,
Pigpen.
yep, yep.
So there's that thing, that dust cloud around,
Uh-huh.
and that's
Here
not
comes
really.
trouble.
It really is. Stay away.
Uh-huh.
And there are certain things that I have codes with my kids, especially when they were younger. They're more grown up now, but I had certain codes that if mom said something, that I saw something around somebody, that you guys stay close.
Okay. So you knew that from a maternal level, how to protect your children, almost like a mother
Yes.
deer would do, protecting her fawns or whatever. That's
Yes.
really interesting. And you were always able to see this. And so when you were able to see this, how did you manifest this into the aura field? I mean, how do you marry those two? You figured this is a good way to sort of, in many ways, I guess it digitized what you were thinking in your head. I mean, it became from
Right.
the analog of your head to become the digital into the world where people could then translate and give them something to go by. That's what it really came down to, right?
Yeah, and it's because somebody has something tactile to take away with them.
Right.
They can look back and remember what we talked about, or people ask me all the time, can I record this? Absolutely. I'm here to help you. If I see an area of focus, is what I call it, because it's not necessarily something bad that's happening, or if we see some stress factor. What I like to do is, because I like helping people, and I don't want to just say, hey, yeah, good luck with that.
Right.
I want to give them
There's some
something.
practical steps on how to use what they have.
Right.
And they can change their aura, can't they?
Absolutely.
Through experiences or through, I mean, I suppose that it runs a full bevy. I mean, you could go through experiences. You'd have a car accident and your aura would change. You could break your leg and your aura would change. You could have a baby, your aura would change, right? You could graduate college, your aura would change.
True.
Hit the lottery, your aura would change, right? Those things would all be happening, I would think. But those are not long-term markers. Those are more temporary markers, I think, right? You'd see if you won the lottery, obviously you're going to be happy, or if you got into a car accident, you'd be upset. But as a personality marker, a personality trait, that would be, you would say, oh, there's a purple person, there's a green person, I know that orange guy down the street. Is that how you would address this and think of them as terms? And do the colors have significance?
Well, yes, colors always have significance, and sometimes I do see people as their energetic patterns. Usually people that are pretty set, and sometimes when I see them and they've changed, I'm like, oh,
New improved
this is different. And I have some clients of mine that come to me on a very
regular basis.
Yeah. And it's interesting when I see them that when they approach me, I'm saying, oh, this is going to be fun.
It's a good day.
It's a good day. It's going to be fun. They're going to love what I have to tell them. And I think some people have asked me, well, why don't you just do that? And I could. People love the picture. They want the picture, and I would too. If I couldn't see it, I probably would want that picture too, because anybody can go up and start talking about, oh, you look this and you look that and your aura is this, but does it actually make sense in your life? Because I had that happen to me, and this person did not even know that I could see auras.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there listening to her. She just walked up to me out of the blue, and I'm saying, my aura doesn't look anything like that.
Yeah.
And none of that stuff is going on in my life.
Interesting. So you could actually validate it or invalidate it.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a little disheartening to me when people are doing stuff like that. And I just try to be as genuine as I can be, and very cut and dry. So you're not going to really get a lot of sugarcoating.
Sugarcoating. Well, you kind of want the truth.
Right.
We recently did a Facebook Live event together talking about the chakras and astrology, which there's a direct connection. So, because chakras are based on color, how do the chakras relate to the auric energy field? Does it show that, does the aura show, or is the aura representative of the chakra that's involved or hyperactive at the time?
That's a great question, because the aura and the chakra system are somewhat integrated, but it's not fully direct. So it's more of an indirect system within the body that has to do with a lot of quantum physics, some torsion field physics, and really like particles, how they maneuver the energetic particles. So when you're talking about the aura and the chakras, it's easier to start at more like the 101 version of it, where yes, there is a certain element of that where they're integrated, and if you kind of think of it as doorways. Like if you think of it as these like little those flapping doors.
Right, so you pass from one place to, okay, right.
Right, so there are
Transition,
little
yep.
wormholes or something that you can,
work
something
your,
like that,
yeah, okay.
that integrate the two systems together in the body, energetic body. And then what ends up happening is whatever's happening within your energy system, your chakras are directly in line with that.
Okay.
So the energy moves up through that chakra system. So there's a correlation there. And whatever you're stuck in is going to be coming out. Whatever you're balanced in is going to be coming out.
This is the real way to use this then, because you could actually hone in on where the person needs to apply some work.
Yes.
That's why it becomes a therapeutic thing.
Right. So sometimes the colors might be really balanced. And it's like, looks great, the hue is perfect, the intensity is great, and it's not flipping into overactive.
So you would ideally want balance.
You want balance.
That's what almost everybody
Yes.
wants, yeah, I see that.
And sometimes we tend to see different stressors, or if somebody's working on something, maybe they got hurt, and they're healing through that process, and if that will show up as a certain color of green. So green can be transformation, change in a positive way
or a negative way.
or a negative way. You can also have green being money or goals.
Coming or going.
Coming or going, yes. Yes.
So that is very much about, I always think of the world as being a dualistic world where we always have these polar extremes, and they're represented by colors, as they are in astrology. For every sign there's an opposing sign. So but together they provide balance when they're in sync together. And so you're teaching a class on this as well, on the chakras. Will you incorporate the aura machine with the chakra class if you do that, or?
There will be an element of, discussing some of the auric imprinting.
And what's the story with your class? When is that happening? Let's get into that.
Yeah, so it's a chakra mastery class. It's a 7-week program.
Okay.
The next one is going to start September 15th, and that's going to run until November 3rd.
And you can get all this from your website, Nicole
Yes.
Majik, LLC.com.
MagicLLC.com.
Okay.
And also on Facebook, there's a bunch of information that is on Facebook at Magic LLC. And the registration is going on right now. I bring in guest speakers. You were one of my guest speakers for the last one, which was awesome. I got a lot of great feedback on you.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Hopefully you'll be coming back as a guest speaker again in a future one. But we go over many different areas where it's not just about going through each individual chakra on a very surface level. We dive deep. We get into some of the quantum physics. I mean, even a lot of the professionals that are in there have said, I thought I knew what was going on with chakras, and I learned so much information. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, you're going to get what you need at that particular time. This is designed that you can take it several times if you need to.
So you could actually call this sort of a chakra tune-up class. I mean, you're tuning up your chakras, right? And you're getting it in sync, balanced.
Right.
Yeah.
It really brings you into being aware about what's going on, and sometimes people hone in on a certain chakra.
I see.
And yes, even though you're seeing the energy coming out and acting up from that chakra, it could be coming from 2 or 3 other places.
Wow.
So we kind of fine-tune that, yes.
Chakra Mastery, look into it. And so your website is Magic LLC.
My website is Magic LLC, MAJIK LLC.com.
Okay,
yes.
very good. Thank you. Nice to have you on.